Good evening, this is Thumbs United. We have our next Let's Play. This is Rise of the Tomb Raider. And originally it was released as the Game Archive, where it's just gameplay and no narration. But I'm going to do a voiceover for this one. You get director's commentary, I guess you could say. But it's going to be like our other Let's Plays. So first off, this comes first to Patreon, but it really comes publicly available to Twitch, and then after it finishes airing on Twitch, it goes to YouTube. But it airs on Twitch Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thursday is the repeat of Tuesday's episode, and then Wednesday and Friday is creative streams, so video editing and photography and other things like that. And then on the weekend, it's kind of mixed up a little bit. Sometimes we do a game marathon where we'll do like an entire series all at once. So like an example would be like we'll play all the Deadpool episodes in a marathon. So that lasts like all day. And then sometimes I do a creative marathon where it's several episodes of a creative stream put together, running all day. Usually from 12 noon to at night. And then this game, Rise of the Tomb Raider, I'm playing it on the PC. I had some problems playing it on the PC originally. I had to mess with the settings a lot. But overall, my experience was pretty good. The problem is that I have an older graphics card. I mean, it was pretty good / okay at the time when it came out, but it needs an upgrade. But I just haven't felt like upgrading it. So yeah. The main reason why I haven't felt like upgrading the graphics card is I'm going to be scaling back gaming on the PC. I mean, I like it and it works, but a lot of times I have to render things. And so 90% of the time the computer is rendering, and so whenever I want to game, you can't render and game at the same time. Because they're both CPU and GPU intensive, but and I really like the Tomb Raider series. I feel like they cloned Uncharted, and I'm okay with that because Uncharted is just on the PS4 and PS3. And this way I get an Uncharted knockoff on PC and the Xbox One. And then I got this game from Steam. It was during a Steam sale. It came with like all the DLC and some extra packs. But I'm not gonna, for this Let's Play, I'm not gonna play too many of the DLC packs. I don't think I'm gonna play any. So then I guess, so I have my list of topics I want to talk about, but the first one is about live to tape. So in the other Let's Plays, I kind of been talking about and hinting at, what live to tape was doing, but at the time of this release, it episode 1 was released to Patreon, and so it's gonna sit there. It was released like October 10th, and so Patreon users get a month of exclusivity, and then it will be released publicly, episode 1 to live to tape on YouTube. And there's a lot of versions of episode 1. It's there's a 2D version, a 3D version, and a VR version, and it's all the same episode. It's just released differently. And so the reason why I released a 2D version and a 3D version separately is because YouTube doesn't really support 3D very well. They used to support it very well, and like you could do the side by side, you could do the anaglyph, which is the red and blue glasses, or you can set it to actually do, like, if you had a polarized TV or monitor, you could say to do the line interweave, which is what the polarized is. And then you could do all that. And then they updated their video player, and none of it worked anymore. It was just, you can only do red and blue, or you could do 2D. But what you don't know is, with 3D, if you're converting it, you have to upload a side-by-side video, which is the left eye and the right eye squished together. And so if you view that version in 2D, it's a lower quality version than if you just release the video from, the left eye. So that's really what the 2D version is of episode 1. It's just the left eye, and it's at full resolution, which is 1080p. And so then the 3D version, it's released as side by side, but YouTube, now there was a second update to YouTube that happened around September, where they changed a lot of the design, not so much the video player, but they removed the feature for 3D support, so you can't upload videos anymore and say it's in 3D. So I uploaded the 3D video, which is just side by side, and so now if you want to view it in 3D and you have a 3D TV or a 3D monitor, you kind of have to manually set the TV into 3D mode, which for the monitor, which for the monitor I have is pretty easy. It's just, you have to go into the menu system, and for most TVs it should be easier, but it's not ideal. And that's actually the biggest problem I have with 3D video, especially on Blu-ray, is because, 3D on Blu-ray is pretty easy. You just put it in, and the Blu-ray player handles the conversion and whatnot. But in order to author, which is just like to burn or to render a 3D Blu-ray, the software tools you have to use are they never came to the consumer level. And so there's no real way you can burn a 3D Blu-ray so that it's easy for the user. They would still have to do the same setting as the same situation with YouTube, where they'd have to manually set their TV into 3D mode and use the side-by-side image. But the authoring tools are around $10,000 to $15,000, which is I can't afford that. So the other solution is maybe I could outsource the authoring. So I would design the Blu-ray and whatnot, but then I have to give it to a separate company, and then they can encode it, because it's a special MP4 container called MVP, which is multi-view something. But oh no, it's MCV, multi-camera view. And it's just really hard to get a hold of anything that can actually encode that in version Blu-ray can. No way you can burn to a Blu-ray. So that kind of sucks. But this 3D YouTube solution is kind of a workaround to that. And then the other issue is like maybe a user doesn't know how to put their TV in the 3D mode, and so I don't want to like sell a Blu-ray and then the person not know how to put it in that version. So I'm kind of planning not to release any Blu-ray versions of that until I can find a solution. And so the versions were the versioning was kind of simple to do based on the way that I render, but I had such a problem with the last set of renders. It was just incredible. I missed it. So with live to tape with episode 1, it had to be rendered several times. So like the first time I had to do the time-lapse editing and the kind of animating the different effects. So that was one thing. So once I finished that, I had to render. And then after it rendered the time-lapse, it would render the time-lapse in 120 frames per second. Then I had to write a program that would blend the frames, which is like a simulated motion blur. And so then it would render that, it would add the motion blur, and it would take the 120 frames per second and turn it into a regular 30 frames per second video. And then, so once that part was done, then I had to edit it again where I had removed like sensitive information, so license plates and anything that was like I didn't want anyone doing anything nefarious with that information. And so that was a whole nother process. And so then then I had to re-render, and I was just using the censor bars. And oh my goodness, that was such a headache, because I would submit the job to render, which is just like uploading to the server. That would render, and it would render half of one video. So it would render like the first 20 seconds. Well, that's not half of the video, but it would only render the first 20 seconds, and then it would crash, and then it was just like, what? Because it didn't make sense, because the week before, I had been rendering non-stop things for Thumbs United, like different Let's Plays and creative streams. And so that was like, I didn't understand, because nothing changed. I didn't run any updates. The computer was pretty much sitting idle for like 2 or 3 days. And so I don't know what happened, but so I was like, fine, that node can't render for right now, and I didn't want to fix it, because I was like trying to get the project done. And so I stopped a different computer, and I gave it the live to tapes job, and it would render it fine. But then when it would go to encode the video, because what it does is it renders the video to kind of a raw uncompressed version, and then it encodes it to like H.264 and whatnot. Like I can choose to have it rendered to ProRes if I wanted to, but for Thumbs United I just render it to H.264. So it's easier to upload right away. And so it would get to the part where it would render, and then when it went to encode, it would just crash, just hard power off. And I was like, oh my goodness, what's going on? You know, Life to Tape episode 1 is cursed. And so it turns out that the power supply was kind of overloaded and not working properly. So whenever it went to encode, it would like, the motherboard required more power because the CPU was working harder, and the power supply just couldn't handle it. And so we just turn off the computer, and it does that rather than exploding. So that was a bummer. And this particular computer with the broken power supply, it had an older power supply that was like 450 watts, and that one died. It died after about 2 years of use. And this computer is used mainly for rendering, so it's at 100% utilization for like 90% of the time that it's on. And it's just running straight for like 2 years, doing different projects and whatnot. So it's like, it's understandable that the power supply died. But about 4 months ago, the power supply died, and it was in between paychecks. And so I was like, I didn't want to spend a lot of money on anyone, so I found one for like $25. And I was like, I know it's not good, I know it's not going to last, but I'm just going to get it so it can continue rendering. And so it lasted 4 months, which is longer than I thought it would render, but it finally died. So yesterday I went and I ordered a higher quality one, and I made sure it was 600 watts, because it had a 500 watt and then a 400 watt, and that wasn't enough. So I'm gonna try a 600 watt, and hopefully that lasts longer, like 3 or 4 years. So that computer doesn't work right now. And so then I was like, okay, now I have to fix the original computer, and that was going to render it. And so it was weird. I just ran some updates, and then I kind of looked at the drive to make sure it was working fine. And everything seemed to be working fine after the updates. And so I just submitted the job again, and it rendered. And I was like, seriously, all I had to do was update the computer? And so that's the part that makes no sense, because it was working fine before, had no issues, and just ran the updates, and then it worked. So I don't know what bug there was that magically appeared that week, but it was fixed. And so then again, I sent the job to render. It took about 7 hours to render the different versions. So that was pretty good. And then I was able to convert those and upload them to YouTube. And so episode 1 was really frustrating. So, not frustrating, but it was just like, I didn't think I'd get it out on time, and it kept crashing. It was just like, I was getting ready to like go and rewrite some code, but I didn't have to. That was good. And so episode 2 should be easier from now on. Episode 2 and the rest of the episodes, it was just like a one-time glitch with 2 computers, but So, I mean, it's kind of funny because in terms of the parts that break the most often on these, they're really consumer grade hardware, but I just call them servers because they're kind of like over glorified Linux boxes. But the part that breaks the most is the power supply. I mean, in the past 5 years, I've had to replace 3 power supplies, and the only other thing that died on me once was a RAM module, and that happened about a month ago. And that one was really hard to figure out because the RAM module half ran. Sometimes it would work and sometimes it wouldn't. And so, the computer just wouldn't boot. It wouldn't even load the BIOS. And so I thought it was a motherboard problem, but then it just turned out the motherboard couldn't initialize the RAM. It was only one RAM stick. And so that took a lot of testing because it was like, is it the hard drive? No. The processor, I put in an older processor and it still wouldn't work. And then it was just by accident. I just put in one RAM stick and it worked. And then I put the other one in and it didn't work. And I was just like, oh my goodness, it's a RAM stick. So I recommend, don't cheap out on the power supply. When I was taking A+ hardware, which is a certification that you know how to build computers and fix them, and it's really for like technicians and whatnot, computer support. But my teacher was like, there's no real good way to figure out a good power supply. You really just, you kind of have to know which companies make good ones. But he said the easiest way to tell a good power supply is by how heavy it is, because the components that go into a power supply that make it good are like really heavy and whatnot. I think there's like different amounts of lead in some of the capacitors and whatnot. So if it's a really light one, it's pretty cheaply made and it probably won't last very long. And so far that's held up. The power supply that I got that was only supposed to last like a month or so ended up lasting 4 months, but still that's not very long. But it was $25, and when I got it, it was so light. I was like, it didn't make any sense. It was almost like it was made out of styrofoam compared to the other power supplies. And so, yeah, it totally didn't hold up. And so, I've been working on a lot of different projects, and so a lot of them are like in the rendering stage now. So, I even have my laptop rendering some things, but gross. Nobody likes scorpions. And so I've been playing on my Xbox One a little more than usual. And so one day I decided to go play Halo 3. And well, another story is they finally released Halo as backwards compatible on the Xbox One. And they were like released all the Bungie games as backwards compatible. Before it was only Reach. It was like, that took you guys a long time. But so I went to play Halo 3, but with the Master Chief Collection. And this time I turned on subtitles and whatnot. And a lot of times I don't game with the audio even on, because I'm like listening to a podcast or something, and so I'm either playing something from my phone or from the computer. So I just mute the Xbox. But this time I played it with the audio on, and I was just like, oh my goodness. I mean, the commentary from like the other soldiers is hilarious. And then I got, and Nathan Fillion plays some of the other soldiers in Halo 3. And so there was this one time, it was on Savo Highway, where Nathan Fillion's like over the intercom saying things, but I have the one soldier that is voiced by Nathan Fillion in my Warthog. So it was funny because over the radio he'd say something and then Nathan Fillion would say something in my Warthog. And I was like, that's too funny. And but oh my goodness, Halo 3 is a totally different game with subtitles on. I mean, I've played it for years, just running through and doing all the different levels and replaying a lot of the ones that I like. And it was like, wow, because there were a lot of things that I just heard wrong or like weren't said clearly. And so it was just like, it was just surprising because I was like, that totally changes the game. And so I started from the first level, Arrival, which is a cinematic and only a cinematic. But I made it through like halfway through the game, and I was like, I guess I'll play the game all the way through. I wasn't planning on it. And this was over the course of 3 days. And so it was just like almost every other cutscene with the subtitles on, like a character said something that was completely different from what I heard. And like an example was, well, at the end, the last cutscene, the Arbiter and the Shipmaster are standing around next to each other, and they're like, the Shipmaster is like, I want to see my homeworld, to know if it's safe. And forever I thought that the Arbiter said, fear not, for we have mates there. Like, we have friendly soldiers there keeping it safe. But no, he said, fear not, because we made it so. And so even with the subtitles on, it was just like, that's totally, didn't sound like that what the subtitles said, but I was like, that makes so much more sense. And then there was a couple of other lines, like by Lord Hood, that it was like, oh, that's what he said. It makes so much more sense. And like the end speech with Lord Hood, where he's just like, he's essentially saying like, thanks you guys. I didn't think that this Halo problem was worth fighting for, but you took the fight and, finished it, which was the marketing slogan. But it was like, oh, that's interesting. So it was like totally new meaning. Makes a lot more sense. And then there were other parts of Halo where there's no way you can hear what the characters were saying because of like the 3D audio position. And like there were a couple of lines that Guilty Spark said about the new Halo, and that was rebuilt on the Ark. And it was just like, oh my goodness, because they have him flying away, so the volume gets faded out, but they fade out to a part where you don't hear the end of his sentence. But with the subtitles that's on it, it's just like, oh my goodness, he was getting excited for this, and this is why the activation index, they couldn't have one, and why they needed to find Cortana, and blah blah blah. But it was just a new perspective. It was just like, wow, after all these years, I didn't see that. So, highly recommend. Play all your video games with subtitles on. And then in other news, I'm getting ready to go to New York. We're visiting my sister. She goes to college over there. Two of my sisters go to college in New York. They go to different colleges though. So we're gonna go see them. We're gonna take my grandmother. And we're flying this time. Usually we drive. It takes 11 hours. I mean, it's an easy drive to do. We can do it in one day. But we don't think my grandmother can handle the long drive. So we're gonna fly. And flying from Michigan to New York is like, it's incredible because it's like an hour and 10 minutes to fly. And so whenever we fly instead of drive, it's just like, wow. We get there like 1 hour, and it takes longer to drive to the airport to go through security than it does to actually fly in the airplane. And it's just like, oh my goodness, this is a life of luxury, not having to drive, because you're stuck, in the car forever. I mean, I like road tripping, but so I'm looking forward to seeing my sisters again. And then this is like a couple of restaurants we really like in New York. And it's funny because like the restaurants, they don't know we don't live in New York, but we're like a regular there. So like whenever we go there, so they're like, oh hey, you're back, blah blah blah, but they think we're like local New Yorkers. And it's like, no, we came all the way from Michigan from here. And so that's like the thing. If you own a restaurant and you have like gluten-free whatnot, because that's how we discovered this restaurant, because I can't eat gluten. I'm allergic to wheat, and there's several other things I'm allergic to. But so we went there, and it was just like they had the best gluten-free ravioli. They had the best, it's like cracker bread, but it's still really good bread. And so that's why we keep going back, because they have something for everyone in our family. So if you have so if you have good good gluten-free stuff, you can attract a lot more people who only go there because you have gluten-free, because a lot of other restaurants don't. So it's kind of like a leg up you have on other people. Yeah, so we're going to New York. Excuse me. And we're just going for the weekend. So I'm still in school, but I want to get all my homework done before we go. And so I have my last class is on Thursday, and so I want to finish all my homework that day on Thursday. So I'm looking forward to that. it's not really newsworthy, but last night I came down to the kitchen and because it was like I'm having this problem where it's like I can't sleep, and I'm just lying in bed for like hours, and then finally it like hits me. It's like, oh, I can't fall asleep because I'm hungry. So then I go downstairs for like a literal midnight snack. I think it's more like 2 or 1 in the morning, and so then I have a little snack. But so I went downstairs and I was like, I'm hungry, and then like I'm just gonna eat a little thing before I go to sleep. And so I go downstairs, and oh my goodness, the entire kitchen floor is just filled with trash. And it's not just like trash, it's like shredded into little bits. And so it turns out my dog like just so it turned out my dog had been like having a field day. She knocked over the trash can and he just stole everything. She's like, oh my goodness. We have 2 dogs and they're both Newfoundlands, but one's a rescue Newf, and the rescue Newf, oh my goodness, she acts like she has never seen food in her life before. We actually feed her more than our first dog because she's bigger and whatnot and has more energy, but it makes no difference. And I told my mom, I was like, I wonder if we just put her in a room filled with dog food, what would happen? Because I think that if she had like an unlimited amount of food, she would just eat until she exploded. You know, I don't think she'd ever stop eating. And the joke of it is, she's like a bigger dog, but she's thinner. You know, it doesn't matter how much food we give her, she's still really skinny. So it's like, wow, I wish I had your metabolism. But she's just always searching for food. You know, she's jumping on the counters, and she has really strong legs and a really strong jaw. So she'll jump and reach into the sink and pull like a heavy pan, and she'll lift up the pan and take it out of the sink and then try to eat what little residue there was left on the pan that was in the sink. So she's like, oh my goodness. So that was like, oh my goodness. So then we had to, my mom and I, you know, picked up the trash, and then we had to vacuum, and it's just like, oh my goodness. But so that was at like 1 in the morning. But so I told my mom, you know, can't trust a Newf. I mean, you can trust a Newf, but I mean, like, not this Newf. She's always searching, and she's extremely smart. So she can find food, but then she knows how to like open the food, and we'd try all these different tricks to like lock up and things, and she can get through it. And then another funny thing is, in the basement, we had our first family dog. His name was Max, and we had like these bins that we would put his food in. So every day we'd go to the basement and we'd take a scoop out and put it in his bowl, and then bring it upstairs and he'd eat it. But when we got our other dog after Max died, we didn't give the other dog the same food as Max because we found out that food's not the best food, and so we gave the new different diet. And so we forgot that the food was there because it had been years. And so we just forgot about it. So this dog, the rescue dog, whose nose is like really good, she found the food about 2 weeks ago, and she would just open the bins and then eat all the food. So finally we're like, we can't have her eat this food. And so, but she was like so happy that she found it. So like, because every time she went to the basement, she'd go straight for the food. And so, while she was upstairs, I put the food into the trash bags and then we threw it out. And oh my goodness, she didn't understand what happened. Because the next day she came down to the basement and opened her bin and there was no food. And she was like, where is it? She was looking all over the basement for it. She couldn't understand where it went. She was barking at our other new, because I was pretty sure she was like, you ate all my food and didn't leave me any, blah, blah, blah. And so this was 2 weeks ago that the food was gone. And still, every time we go to the basement, which is like every other day, because that's where our TV is, she will just go to the box and like look for the food, and she still can't believe that that the food is gone. And she's like, maybe it will come back, I know it was here, I left some extra food, I know I didn't eat it. And so, I mean, that's kind of sad, because she's like, the food's gotta be here around here somewhere. And I'm like, no, the food's gone, but she doesn't believe it. And then, in other news, I talked about this a long time ago, but there was like this deal on the Xbox store, and like a lot of games were half off if you had Xbox Live. And so I had a discount version, I had a discount code for Xbox Live, so I got that. And then I bought several games, and so one of them was Mass Effect Andromeda. And there was like a lot of bad press about it, and the animation was buggy, but it was like months since the game came out, so they were like a lot of updates, and so the animations were pretty fine for me. But there were some, not animation glitches, but it was just like, why are you animating the character this way? Like, it was definitely done on purpose, and it was just like funny facial expressions for the situation. But I highly recommend doing a custom character with a custom face and whatnot, because I think if I did the default writer, who's like the main character, then there would have been more bugs. But I mean, and that's kind of funny that there'd be less bugs in the custom face. But I played as Sarah Ryder, the female writer, and the game was interesting. I might write about this on the Thumbs United blog, like a review. But most of the game was good, but there were definitely pacing issues where I feel like there were maybe 5 or 6 plot points in the main story. So it was like really short. And then the side missions, there were a ton of side missions. And I spent maybe 50 hours in the game. And I probably did maybe 3/4 of all the side missions. But kind of the problem I had with it was a lot of the side missions are actually really important to the story, but they don't tell you that. And so when you finish the game, it's just like, oh, remember all these decisions you made in your side missions? They were actually really important. And so I was happy I did the side missions, but in no way do the side missions, like, do they say, oh, this side mission is like important. They do organize some of the side missions by planet. So if you want to make a planet habitable, they have a list of things you need to do. But it was just like, I just did that for fun because I wanted to complete most of the game. But so that was interesting. And then when the end happened, it was really surprising because I thought maybe, because what happened was I played through what I thought was like maybe half the game or a third of the game, and then I was just like, story's going kind of fast, and I just want to explore the universe a little bit. So I just did side mission after side mission after side mission, and so then I went back to do the main story, and there were like 2 plot points, and then the game was done, and I was just like, what? I couldn't believe it, because it felt really short, and I felt like it was kind of rushed, and like not a lot happened. And so there's the Archron, and I had some problems with his character design. I thought he kind of looked like a weird hamster with big eyes, even though he was like had that rocky texture. And so a lot of times I just felt kind of sorry for him, because it was like, oh, you kind of look. It was like this weird cuteness, but his animations didn't make sense, and I kind of have big problems with his character design, because the other creatures, I mean, they look scary. They look like enemies, kind of stereotypical alien enemies. But he was just odd looking and didn't really fit the character. And so there was like maybe 3 or 4 main missions. I mean, the whole main missions you're fighting against him, but he only like showed up in cinematics and stuff like 3 or 4 times. And so it's just like, it didn't really feel like an enemy you knew very well. And of course he was like the main boss at the end. And so there were a lot of elements that I liked. There were, going through the planets and stuff, it was a lot like Mass Effect 1, where you land on a planet and then they'd have like question marks and things, and then you had to go discover them. And then of course you had the side quests, and side quests are easier in Mass Effect Andromeda because they tell you what to do and where to go. And so like you can stop a side quest and go do a different one, and then when you come back you still have the same progress in the other one you came back to. And so that part's nicer. And I think they had to do that because the worlds are a lot bigger, so you can't just go out and discover. Even though it is really a discovery game, you can't just drive out to the middle of nowhere to find this thing that you might need or might not be there. And so there's a lot of driving in this game, and that part I liked. And the planets, there was like a wide variety. Some were really interesting. And so that part was fun. And then the other issue, well, not so much issue, but I was trying to romance Suvi. And so then, the game ended. And I was like, what? I didn't get to romance anyone, because I was like, where's the romance scene going to happen? And so it looks like the game thought I was romancing Kara. But, I mean, I wasn't on purpose. I was just being nice to her. And so it turns out that it seems that I did more loyalty missions for Kara than I did. I mean, there's no loyalty missions for Suvi. I mean, there's 1 or 2 things you can do for her just to like be nice, but I guess I did so much for Kara, and the game like assumed I was trying to romance her, but I didn't do 100% of the things, so it didn't give me the romance option for Kara. But it's just like, that's funny. I wish I would have known that. And so I definitely plan on going back and playing the game, and I am going to do a Let's Play of it. But Andromeda is actually fun. It's structured a little differently. And again, now that I know, when it's going to end, I'm going to play it a little differently. Like, I'll do more of the side missions up front and then go do the main story ones, because I think that's how it was meant to be played. I think it was meant to, like, you go do all the side missions and then you do the main story ones. But then there were some issues where like there were characters I straight up didn't like, and I've never had that in a Master game, where there were crewmates that I just didn't want to deal with. For some reason I didn't really like Liam. I mean, he was okay. It was just like there was one cutscene where it was just about him smuggling a couch onto the ship. And I just like, I don't want to talk to you, so I never did, really any of his loyalty missions. And then the other person I really didn't like, because she made no sense, was PB. I mean, she was voice acted very well, but I mean, just plot-wise, she didn't make a lot of sense. Because, I mean, I would drive in the, what was it called? It's not the Hammerhead, it's not the Mako, but I forgot the name of it. It's been a month since I played Andromeda. But, so you're driving in the vehicle, and it fits you and 2 other squad mates. And so you're going, and Plebe just like non-stop harasses Cora. And Cora's just like, stop talking to me. And so like Plebe's really talkative, almost over talkative. But then if you want to do her loyalty missions, she's like, I'm not going to talk to you. You don't need to know anything about me. And I'm like, whenever I take you out off the ship, all you do is talk nonstop. Now you're not going to talk to me? So it's kind of like, if you want her to talk to you, you have to like go get all this remnant tech for her. And she's like, I'm not going to do that. So I just didn't. And so that part I kind of found annoying. Because like her character on the ship was different from her character in the actual game. So that's kind of was a bummer. So I do recommend Andromeda. I got it on sale for $30, and I did that. I didn't buy it new. Well, I mean it's new because I got it from the digital store, but I didn't get it when it first came out for $60 because I heard it had all these bugs, and everyone was complaining about how bad it was. But I mean, it's a good game. It just has some bad parts to it, and so. But 90% of it is good. But so I got it for $30. But the last time I checked on the store, it was selling for $20, and I don't know if that was like a different sale. But this was like 2 months after I bought it, so it went down from $30 to $20, which is kind of a shame because it's a huge game, so it really is a deal if you can get it for $20, and I highly recommend it. I would recommend it at $40, to be honest. Gross. I just didn't know what I was supposed to do at that point. And so then, like I said before, in an earlier topic, I was playing Halo. So I finished Halo 3 after playing that all the way through. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to go play ODST. I was just I was just really excited for ODST. And then, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I like the Master Chief Collection. I mean, there were a lot of problems people had with multiplayer, but I don't play multiplayer. So I just do the campaigns. But what I like is that it's actually rendered now in full 1080p. And so what a lot of people don't know about the original Halo games is, like, the game box would say, oh, it outputs to 1080p. But games don't render the image in 1080p. Sometimes they do it to, like, funny resolutions, to, like, maybe 30 pixels less than 1080p, on each side, and then they upscale it, and so it kind of makes the game a little fuzzier and less clear. But with the Master Chief Collection, it's like these pixels are 1-to-1, so it's like it's actually rendering everything in 1080p, so it's a lot clearer and the environments look better. But so I was excited to go play ODST just because of the increased video quality. I've played it before and I enjoyed it on the Master Chief Collection, and so it's been a while though. And so I went and I opened the game and I selected kind of the skulls, and the skulls are like special abilities or damage multipliers that you get to kind of like increase your score. And so I would turn on the one that gives you like the kind of like increased voice options, where like the dialogue the different soldiers say is randomized differently. So the things that they usually don't say, they say, versus the standard way the game's played. And so I selected that one, and then I went to start the game. So I selected the first level, and it goes into the loading screen and doesn't do anything. It's just the loading bar is there, the background picture is there, it's playing the ODST music, which just doesn't load. I'm like, seriously? So then I quit the Master Chief Collection, and then I go into the settings and I stop it, and then I start it up again. And same thing, ODST, the first level won't load. And then I was thinking, maybe it's and I was thinking maybe it was like because I had the skull on, maybe there's a bug where it can't load the skull on the first level. And so I do it, and nothing. And then I'm sorry, my nose is getting stuffy. It's getting hard to breathe. And so I turn the setting off, and then I go back and try to start it again, nothing. So then I force quit it. So then I go online, and then there are like these posts from 2015 with like the same problems, like, ODST won't load, nothing I do. So like I go through the forums and I finally find a solution. And so but before I did this, so then before I went to the forums, I uninstalled ODST and then reinstalled it. I have the digital download, so I had to re-download it, and that didn't work. And I was like, what is going on? Then even a reinstall, didn't work. And so I go to the forums, and it's like, you have to hard power off your Xbox. I was like, seriously? So you got to hold the power button for the Xbox for 10 seconds, and then it will completely shut off instead of going to low power mode. And so I did that, and then I started up, and it worked. I was like, what a weird bug. Because even though I reinstalled ODST, that still doesn't fix it. You would think that would clear out whatever problem you had, but nope. Had to do a hard restart. And then I was like, oh, brother. Because last month I have Comcast, and so they do have data caps. And it's not just data caps where, they'll throttle you after you go past a certain point. They charge you extra for every 50 gigabytes you go over. So it's really obnoxious. And they say it's because they don't want, people to abuse the network and whatnot. And it's annoying because like I don't do any pirating or anything, and I'm still hitting the caps. And so it's like, and I'm kind of a standard user, I guess. I mean, I do a lot on the internet, but I mean, the real reason why they do it is because they don't want you doing all the internet videos like Netflix or whatnot, because it hits you against the cap. They want you to, get their TV bundle and whatnot. But I don't watch a lot of Netflix, and I occasionally watch Amazon Video because I have Prime. But I do watch a lot of Twitch and a lot of YouTube. So that part's kind of sad that it's the streaming that's getting me. I also did a little bit more uploading last month than I usually do, but still, it's just like, oh, what am I going to do? So I want to switch away from Comcast, but to something that's not limited, because the whole time I'm worried. And so like back to reinstalling ODST, it was just like, I have to reinstall, 8 gigabytes, and that counts against the 1 terabyte limit, And so that's the other thing that I think helped me hit my limit was that I have a 500 gigabyte Xbox. I need to get an external drive for it, but I'm saving up for drives for something else. And so, like, when I'm done with the game, I uninstall it, and then I install the next one I want to play. But last month, I installed, like, 4 different games. And so, like, each one is about 40 to 50 gigabytes each. And so I think that was what really threw me over. So anyway, I was like, I don't want to uninstall ODST and not, but I ended up doing it. And so I did the hard restart, and it worked fine, kind of. So it loads the first level, and it takes like 5 seconds to load the level, and it's like, oh my goodness. The difference is night and day between never loading and 5 seconds. And then it does the first cutscene with Buck, who's Nathan Fillion, and the other ODST members, and what's her face from Battlestar Galactica. And so then, you're dropping down from the space station, from the ship into New Mombasa, and there's like, I remember this whole like thing that you did where you had to like look at these certain bolts and hit them to escape from the pod. And so it was really weird because once the pod crashed, I didn't have to push any of the eject buttons. It just, popped the patch open and threw me out. I was like, that's weird. And so then I'm walking around the city, and it's like, do you want to replay this tutorial? But it never had the tutorial. And I was like, that's weird. And so then there's this thing you have to do where you have to download the city map, and that's how you know where your objectives are. But you have to go to a terminal in the game to do it. And so the game never prompts that. So the scripting in the game was like completely off and not working, and some things weren't even firing. So I was just stuck in this part of the city, and I was like, I can't go anywhere. So I tried it for like 15 minutes, but then I was like, I forget it. I don't want to debug this. I'll just try it again later. So I thought that was funny that after all those problems, the ODST wasn't working properly. But to be honest, I've never had this problem before, and so I have to look it up to see what the issue is. But it was like, oh my goodness, didn't even get through the first level because of this. Because the city locks you into certain parts until you complete the objectives, and so it's just like I can't go any further. But there were like still enemies that showed up, so I was like, this is interesting. And then, I don't know. I've been, well, one, I've talked about this before, but I've been on the dating apps and whatnot. But then even like some of my friends on Facebook, they, like, I don't know what the deal is with my generation. I'm like an older millennial, but it's just like the amount that people ghost. It's just like, I don't understand the point. I mean, I think it might be one of two things. One, a lot of the younger millennials, like my younger sisters and whatnot, like when they text, instead of sending like one text with like periods and whatnot with the whole kind of paragraph of what you're texting, they send like one line at a time. So you check your phone and it's like you have 29 messages, but it was really a message that could have been one text, but it's split into like 5 billion different parts. And so half of me thinks that maybe because I'm not texting that way, and that's how you have to get somebody's attention. But a lot of times, like on Facebook, like someone will message me and they're like, "Oh, I see you got a new job." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm doing blah blah blah." And then and then they're like, "Oh, we should hang out." And I was like, "Yeah, what day is good for you?" And it's just like nothing. But like it's not just one person; it's other people. And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, is this me or is this just society?" So I think I used to think it was me. I was like, "Oh, everyone hates me, blah blah blah." But then I see them in person, and they're like, "Oh, we're so happy to see you, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Why didn't you respond to my text?" And they're like, "Oh, I just didn't get it." I was like, "Oh my goodness," because I don't like being annoying. I don't like sending a billion texts and whatnot. But I'm thinking, that's what you have to do nowadays. And then, it was worse than that. One of my friends was like, "Oh yeah, I saw it, but I saw it like a week after you sent it, so I thought that was too late to respond." I was just like, it's text. You can respond whenever you want. It's not like talking on the phone where you have to say something right after the other person says it. It's asynchronous. But that part, so that's kind of like standard in my social circle. But then, on dating and shit, on the dating apps, it's so much worse. Because, like, I'll be talking to somebody and it's like, "Oh, it's going well, blah, blah, blah." And then all of a sudden it's just like nothing. I was like, what? And that's been a week and it's still nothing. And I'm like, that's weird. So that happens a lot. Because it's not that I get a lot of matches. I mean, I get a few. But it's just like the rare ones that, do talk back. Because most people just ghost right from the beginning. Because it's just like, they don't want to talk to you. And it's probably because they're talking to somebody else that they prefer you over. And it's like, that's okay. It happens. You're not the first choice in match. But then she's like, oh, that's where it's like, there was this one lady who I was talking to, and we're literally talking about how it sucks that people ghost so much. And then, she just starts ghosting me. And I'm like, oh, I thought we had a real connection over this. But, it happens. And so, ghosting probably isn't new. It's just, I've never really been on social networks. I have this theory about social networks that they're actually making us, more antisocial. Because, like, before, you go hang out with your friends and you tell them, "Oh, I'm doing this, this, and this." And you talk and have a discussion and whatnot. But, like, with Facebook and everything else, so you're supposed to post, what you're doing in your life. But the other person sees it, and they don't have to come to you to interact with you to know what's going on in your life. Everybody just kind of knows what everyone's doing without having to talk to each other. So it kind of makes everyone more isolated, and kind of like one way. Like, you put yourself out there, but nobody interacts with you back. And so I boycotted Facebook. I thought it was the stupidest thing ever. And I didn't get a Facebook account until 2014, 2015-ish. I think it was 2015. But And the only reason why I got it was because I wanted a way to create a Facebook page, but they were like, nope, you have to have an actual Facebook account. And so I didn't entirely want a Facebook page for the websites I wanted. I was just afraid that somebody else was going to like take my Facebook page and impersonate kind of the websites I run. So that's why I got the Facebook account. Because I heard horror stories about other people who run websites, and like not only does the website get a fake page that's not really their account, and then they're posting like horrible things on it. It's just like, no, I'm not affiliated with someone with that. But then I've heard stories where people will create fake accounts, being the person who owns the site, and then like actually, like this like I heard this happen with like people that run Rooster Teeth, where like they had people creating fake accounts and then contacting people they actually knew and like other professional relationships they had, and like talking to them and just saying fake things. It's just like, so that's kind of what motivated me. Like, I guess I have to do that. Kind of preemptive, but and so in May I changed the website name of the Master of Art to Photations, and I did it because the Master of Art always had this subcategory called Photations, but Photations always showed up first in the search. So I was like, I guess we'll just change the name to that. And because it's really hard for in church to be called something the Master of Art, because there's an actual thing called, a Master of Art, and every, college offers, master's degree in art. And so, I can't compete with that. So it was kind of a bad decision to call it that. And the whole theory behind the name was like, it was going to be a blog / photography store that every week or so there'd be a post about something you can do to like improve your art so that you could become like a master of it. And then, kind of in other news, recent event, over the weekend. No, it was like Tuesday or Monday, but there's this one door in the house that the door frame is warped. So if you want to close the door, you have to like pull on it really hard and kind of like slam it shut, and then it will close completely. But so I went into that room to get something, and then I came out and I closed the door, but it closed like there was like a half an inch or a quarter of an inch before it was completely shut. So I was like, I'm not gonna force it open again and then slam it shut. So I was like, I'll just yank on it. So I yanked on it, and I instantly, I don't know what happened, but I like really injured my back doing it. It felt like that scene in Dark Knight Rises when Bane throws Batman onto his knee and like breaks his vertebra. I mean, it felt like that. It was really painful. And like, I've had a lot of back problems over the years. I mean, not like problems, but like I've had like a sore back. I've had like an achy back. This is completely different. And this was like I could barely walk, because like every time my hips moved, it would like shoot all this pain in my back. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna die. And then I was like, this is what people talk about when they talk about back pain, where they can't get up. Like, I always assumed like it was a case of it being super sore. No, this was like beyond painful. And then so then I was like, okay, so I finished kind of the work I was doing on my computer, and I went to bed. And oh my goodness, that was the worst night ever, because there were like certain positions like that it didn't hurt, but like if you moved an inch from that position, it was just like, not only would like the back pain come back, but then the muscles around the pain would start to like seize, just like contract uncontrollably. It was just like I couldn't relax them, so you're like stuck in this position where it's like, oh, it's really painful. And of course that wakes you up, and so it was not a good night. But then eventually I fell asleep, and didn't move. And so that was really painful. And then I thought I was going to have to go see a chiropractor or a massage therapist. But like the next day it still hurt, but not as much. I could walk. And so it's been like 5 days, and it's almost back to normal. And so I was really scared because kind of the work that pays the bills is like really back intensive. And it's like, oh my goodness. So it kind of repaired itself. So that part is good. But yeah, so it's been 5 days, and like occasionally there will be like a certain thing I do, and then it will like twinge a little bit, but it's nowhere near where it was. But I was afraid. I was like, I'm going to need back surgery, blah, 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 if it doesn't get better. But it got better. So that part is, and that's good. And then, oh my goodness. So fall came. I mean, it kind of came late. It was like really hot in September. It was like still in the 90s. But then in October, it had like every other day it was hot, and the other days it was cold. But I guess the trees finally got the message. And so a week ago, none of our trees, the leaves had dropped. But this week they all dropped. I was like, oh my goodness. And I was kind of not dreading it, but usually I pick up all the leaves. I'm responsible for the yard at our house. And so like it takes like a month or two, and so you have to race to pick up all the leaves, and it's maybe 200 bags of leaves over the course of 2 months that you have to do. And so, oh my goodness, I died. And so it's really intensive, and that's usually what I get the back pain from. But this year we bought a lawnmower, and it has this feature where it's an attachment that goes onto the side of the lawnmower, and it vacuums up the leaves or clippings, and then it puts it into the bag that's behind the lawnmower. And so we tried it out a couple of times, and I used it a lot. But then we had this issue where the belt that drives because the belt is attached to the blades of the lawnmower, which are attached to the engine, and so the blades have to be running, and the belt has to work for the vacuum to work, and it keeps burning out. Where it burnt out twice, and so the first time it burnt out, we called the guy we bought the lawnmower from, and he brought a belt and fixed it for us. But this time, so then when it broke the second time, this was in like the beginning of summer, and we're like, oh, we don't need the vacuum so much. And so we're just like, we'll get it fixed when the fall came. But it's like fall is here. So we had to go, and I'm going to buy the belt from him, but I'm just going to attach it myself. But and he's like, wow, oh my goodness. Because it seems like so much more leaves, so I'm really hoping that the vacuum works well and that the belt doesn't break again. But the reason the belt broke is because, I mean, you have to really clean out the vacuum every time you use it. And first, the first time, it was my fault where I was vacuuming out all this stuff and it was jammed, but I didn't know it was jammed. So it just started smoking, and I was like, why is it smoking? So I stopped. And so that's when the belt broke the first time, because the vacuum got jammed. And so what happens is it sucks up a lot of clippings, but sometimes like when you stop using it, it will still be like jam packed with clippings inside the vacuum mechanism, but not in the tubes. And so I would usually check the tubes to make sure they were clear. But then I checked the. So you have to actually like take it apart and look at the vacuum part and pull out all the grass and stuff, because once that dries out, it jams the vacuum the next time you go to start it. So that's what happened the second time the belt broke. I was like, oh my goodness, because it was really embarrassing, because it was only like half a month later after we got the belt fixed the first time. So now I have to like schedule an appointment to fix the belt. And then it's the middle of October. It's October 15th when I'm recording this, and it has been raining for the past 3 days nonstop. Just continuous rain. And it's not just like light rain, it's heavy rain. And so I thought for sure last night a tree fell in our yard, but no. A tree did not fall last night. And so what happened was, we all woke up. It's the weekend, it's Sunday, and then we just kind of did our own thing. And then my mom went outside and got the mail down the driveway, and then came back, no problem. And so then my mom came to my door and she was like, you have to come look at this. And so a couple hours later, she went out, and there's like a tree just in our driveway, just completely fell over. Well, the tree didn't fall over. A large branch fell over. This isn't like, a small branch you can move. This is like, it's like 3 feet diameter, like huge, almost like a trunk of a branch fell. And it's like maybe 25 feet long. And so my mom was like, maybe you can help me move it. So I got one side, and I just tried to like roll it, and it wouldn't budge. It was like so heavy. So what I think happened was, while it was raining, the tree is dead, and we've been meaning to cut it down for a while, but but while it was raining, I think what happened was it just filled up with water and got so waterlogged and heavy that while it was fine before, while it was dry, all this rain made it so heavy that it just cracked off. I was like, oh my goodness. One, I'm glad it didn't fall on my mom and the dog while they were walking past it earlier today. And then, so that part's really lucky. So we're going to have to get that fixed. But it has been raining like nonstop. And the other reason, kind of why that rain's annoying, is because I get paid to mow lawns. And so like when it rains, you can't mow the lawn. So a lot of the places I mow for, like the grass is getting long, but it's like can't cut it yet because it hasn't stopped raining. And then of course the rain makes it, grow faster. But kind of in September and August, there wasn't a lot of rain. So the grass didn't grow that high. So it was just like, there was like 3 people I mowed the lawn for. No, there were 3 times I mowed the lawn. So I was like, oh man, 'cause usually I can get 4 in. And then school's going by really fast. This week is midterms. So one class we're not doing anything for midterms. The computer class, we have 4 tests where we have to take. Each test is like 50 questions, but there's no midterm because there's 4 tests, and they're pretty evenly spaced between the class. But then for the art class, we do have a midterm, and I'm not really worried about because I'm doing well in the class. But so it seems like it will be pretty, not easy, but it will be something I look forward to. But we have this one project we have to do, and so half of it is due the week of midterms. So I've been so nervous because I was like, I have to start it. And I started it 2 weeks ago, which is fine. I mean, it's like a scavenger hunt we have to do where we have to find art from all the other places. And so I finally started doing it. And then last week, the teacher was like, just to let you know, midterms is here. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I was really glad I started it a week before she said that. And so half of it is due. And so I thought it was like a scavenger hunt with 50 items. And so I'm like, oh my goodness, half of it's due. I've only done like 12 items. And then, so I did another I go in bursts where I go and find a ton of stuff that fits the criteria. And so I did another run around where I did that, and I got 10 more things. And I'm like, I'm still not at 25. And so then I actually go and I count the items that we have to find, and there's only like 35 items. So I'm way over halfway done with it. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. So I'm done with the project. I just have to upload a couple of things, and I'm going to do that tonight. And then on Photations.com, I released, I shoot a lot on film, but I haven't released a lot of what I shoot on film. And so I'm starting to release, I call it the 80mm collection. And it's not that it's an 80mm lens that I'm using. It's the size of the frame of film I use is 80mm, and so like in terms of like digital and film, if it was a digital camera, like a 35mm digital camera or a film camera, it would be like this sensor size. So a lot of digital cameras are only 35mm, but with this camera I shoot at, the frame size is 80mm, so it's double the size of sunset or film, you could say. And so what that does is it makes a shallower depth of field, but then also the level of quality is increased because the sensor is double the size, so it captures so much more, not just detail but range and tone than a normal 35mm camera would, both digital and film. And so it's kind of a project I've been working on for a little while, because I have to edit the film a little bit, and it takes a process. And I'm actually gonna start streaming, kind of in the creative category of the process I have to go through to edit the film before it's released. And so it's up right now on Quotations, so you can go and you can see. There's going to be a couple of categories, but right now the one it's still coming out right now. There's only like 7 photos up, but it's photographs from Italy that were shot on film. And so when you look at them, I mean, you'll see the kind of the scale and the high detail of the film. So what happens is I shoot the film and then I develop it, and then I go and I scan it in. And the first time I scanned it in, I only scanned it for like around 25 megapixels. But then I noticed that there was some detail that you could still get from it. So I went back recently and I rescanned them at 70 megapixels, and I'm really happy with it. So the quality is just really high. And so on top of the film, I'm saving up to not start my own gallery, but to have a large collection of print. I have a few things in print, and so what I'm saving up for a lot is frames, and then there's a couple of things I want to have printed in on canvas. And then I just want to start emailing like galleries and stuff. I was like, hey, you have an opening? Because I can bring all this artwork and show it off. So I want to do more of that, because I've been focusing mainly on online, not so much advertising, but online promotion. And I mean, it's been going well, you could say, I guess. In terms of the Quotation store, it consistently gets between 10,000 and 11,000 views a month. So that's kind of good. And that's after changing the name. So I'm happy with that. And then the Quotation, the blog website, it's a little more complicated, but it gets about 2,000 views to the website a month. But then it gets 300 views from RSS. So a lot of people connect with their RSS readers. And so the website gets 300 RSS feeds a week. So that part's doing really well. But the only part I don't like about the RSS, I like RSS, it's fine. But a lot of the companies and app developers, what they do is, they'll access my website for RSS, but then they take out, like all my advertisers and stuff, and then they put it in their own. So it's just like, And so I get paid per view, and so those ones don't count as view. And it's like, it's kind of a rock and a hard place, because it's just like, I'm really glad that ultimately I want more people to view it and everything, but it's just like, kind of goes against, the little man, because they block my advertisement. And to be honest, I don't make that much for the advertisement. Over the past 2 3 or 4 years, I think I made $6. So it's not really that much. Because originally I got paid per click, and recently I just switched it to paid per view. So I don't recommend advertising too much. And so yeah, so I'm gonna try to get, because I mean with the internet, you could be looking for anything and then get distracted and then just like stumble across my site or whatnot. But I mean, people aren't always looking for art when they find my website. And so with the galleries and stuff, I mean, people go to the art gallery when they want to see art. And so I want to get kind of more of a targeted audience of people who, already, I mean, you make it a production to go out and go to our art studio. And so, I mean, you take the time and effort to get ready to go and everything. And it is kind of an event. So I want to start doing more of those.
Yes, sir. Expect such resistance.
I expected you to see. You must know what is at stake with this operation.
Yes. No.
The suffering. Our goal is within reach. We must be vigilant. If we succeed here,
Constantine, you needed back in the prison right away. Got a captain who might know something about the art.
remain faithful, sharing the glory of the divine source.
And then kind of something else I've been noticing is just like the days have been going by so much faster. I feel like every time I notice something, it's like it's already the weekend. It's just like first I notice it's like, oh, the weekend's ending, but then it's like before I know it, the week is up and it's the weekend again. And kind of the other thing I've noticed is just like the actual day, like just the week has been going by so fast. Because it's just like I wake up, I do everything, and then all of a sudden it's like it's nighttime. I'm in bed, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's already been a whole nother day, It's just the time has been flying. And half of me wants to get more done. I mean, I'm working a lot, but so there's not really a lot more that I can do. But it's just like, oh my goodness. The days are going by so fast. And especially the year is almost up. I mean, the other day I noticed, like, last time this year I was working at my first department store, blah, blah, blah. It was like, I mean, the struggle was real while I worked there. And, like, I worked a lot overnight. And I was like, wow, I've not just come a long way, but last year I was doing this, and blah, blah, blah. And it was just a totally different direction where I wasn't focused so much on content creation and stuff. And so I'm excited because a lot more things are closer to being done. But half of me was like, wow. Half of me was just like, oh my goodness, some of these projects have been, going on for a long time. And so I can't wait to get them done. But And then the other thing I was thinking about was just like, I've only had the Xbox for like a year. It just feels like I had it forever. So I'm excited for the holidays. I'm even more excited for the holidays now that I'm not working in retail. Because, I mean, it's hectic. I didn't have a bad experience working in retail with the holidays. But it is just a lot more fast-paced work. And so actually, for seasonal work, I applied to the same department store I did before, and I did the interview, but I didn't get it. And so then, like right after the interview, they emailed me and they were like, "Oh, I'll apply again," but I was like, "No, I don't think so." I have this different job, and before I was gonna work, just as a gardener, but now I'm gonna work kind of as the handyman slash like home restore. There were a lot of problems with his house that I have to fix up, so I'm gonna do that over winter. But so I'm looking forward to that. And then I usually don't see this game. Makes me think a lot of winter, but I really enjoy winter. But so I'm looking forward to it coming. There's a lot of things I want to film in the snow. But yeah, I mean, it's just this year went by really fast. Really fast. And I read that the older you get, your brain starts to change, and with the change in body chemistry and whatnot, that the way the brain perceives time is a lot different than when you're young. So like as you get older, you notice time less, and that's why time seems to go by so fast. But there was like a big change between 23 and 26 for me. And so, I mean, it's true. I mean, if you think about it, like when you're a kid, you can barely go, 5 minutes without, thinking, oh my goodness, it's been so long. Like, especially if you're waiting for something as a kid, there's the old joke, when you're on a road trip, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And it's only been like 10 minutes. But for kids, you're hyper. So like 5 minutes is like an hour lifetime for you. So now I understand. My parents get annoyed because they're like, it's only been 2 seconds. But to the kid, it's like it's been forever. And then a couple of the last things I wanted to talk about. I don't know. Ever since, so with YouTube, I would occasionally make like 9 cents a month with my videos, and that's not just Thumbs United. That's with everyone. That's with Quotations and Thumbs United combined. There would be like a month or two where I make 9 cents. And anyway, so they changed the design of YouTube, and then with the uploads page and whatnot, they're like, oh, just to let you know, you can no longer host ads on your video. I was like, what? So then I looked around more often, and they're like, yeah, it's not. So yeah, a lot of YouTubers, they're getting their videos demonetized because, you know, of content and whatnot. And their content, what they're judging for content is like really random. I mean, not so much random, it's the same set, but who they decide to enforce the rules on is just like really suspicious. But for me, it wasn't that my videos were demonetized because the content, they were just like, well, until you have 10,000 views, you know, you can't host an ad. And I was like, this is crazy, because, you know, I'd occasionally make 9 cents a month. So now I can't make that 9 cents, which is a joke. But now I can't even do that until I get 10,000 views. That's just like, I think they're trying to make it more like Twitch, where you have to get an affiliate and then you get a cut from the content you produce. But it's just like, why would you do that? Because, I mean, it's okay for Twitch. I actually like it that Twitch does that. But, I mean, why would YouTube change from the way they did it before? I'm pretty sure they're just doing it because they don't want to pay out as many people. And, so yeah, so that was kind of a bummer. So I don't know. I really think, well, one, I was always worried about YouTube because they always like kind of brag, oh, we get 24 hours worth of content every minute. So for every minute, there's like 24 hours worth of videos being uploaded to YouTube. And it's just like, I don't know how their business models are gonna kind of stay up, you know, because that's a lot of videos, and some of it is just garbage, you know, and so I'm just worried. Like, I think YouTube's always going to exist, but I think YouTube is going to like piss off a lot of its little creators, but I mean, they're slowly kind of alienating their big creators too. I mean, there was that one guy who said, you know, he was going to, all the money he made from AdSense, which is the advertising on YouTube, he was going to give to the Las Vegas shooting. And they demonetized his video because they said we don't allow ads on videos about tragedy. And it's just like, seriously, this guy's making essentially a fundraiser and you're cutting it off. But not only that, so then Jimmy Kimmel uploads a video, same thing, kind of the Vegas shooting and stuff, and they're showing ads on his video. So it's just, there's definitely a double standard. And I think the problem is, I think YouTube is like, they're trying so hard to be a content creation company, but they don't actually produce any of the content everyone else does. It's the users. And so they're trying to do like all these business models where like they control the flow of content, but it's just like they don't create anything. They just create the platform. And so, yeah, I mean, yes, it's their platform. They can do whatever they want with it, but they still have to kind of keep their platform attractive so people, you know, continue to use it and they want to use it. And so, like, right now, I'm already looking for like alternatives away from YouTube. I don't mean just Twitch, I just mean like hosting videos. Like hosting videos myself. And looking for like other third parties to host. Kind of like Vimeo and other built-in services. But I don't trust YouTube, you know. So I want to remind everyone that, this kind of sad note, but this series will be released to Patreon first in its entirety, and then it comes to Twitch. We stream one episode a week, and each time we stream the previous episode. So yeah, you kind of get like a double feature or a triple feature, depending on how many episodes have come out. And then once the series ends on Twitch, then it will be once a week. Each episode will trickle down to YouTube. So you can subscribe to Thumbs United on YouTube, follow us on Twitch. It really helps out. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. We have a few minutes left, but I just wanted to get that in there. And the other thing, kind of in terms of traveling, I used to do a lot of free diving, and so that's just like, it's like snorkeling, but you go down kind of deep. But I took this class for scuba diving, and it was kind of silly when I took it. I took it in October. This was a couple of years ago, and then the way it worked out was like you have 3 or 4 months to take the scuba test, the in-water scuba test, and so that would have been winter. So the lakes where I live would all be frozen where they do it. So that's the part that kind of sucked, because it's a 2-part test. You have to pass the written, and then you have to pass the open water test. And so in class, to practice for the test, I passed everything you do that you would do in the open water test. And then I even passed the written test. So that part was good. But then it was just like, because I took the class in essentially end of fall, early winter, I couldn't take the open water. And so it's only valid for about 4 months, and then you have to take the class again. And so I really want to take the class again because I love scuba diving. But scuba diving is great because it just feels almost like you're in space. You just, kind of floating there. You can go up, down, left, right. It's almost like you're flying kind of by yourself. And so I'm going to, once spring comes around, I want to do the scuba diving again. And then hopefully I can get a lot more videos. I have a ton of videos of from free dives and whatnot, and pretty interesting. But with scuba diving, it's really different, because with free diving, it's kind of like luck. The footage you get is just, you're only holding your breath for like 3 or 4 minutes, and then you have to come back to the surface. But with scuba diving, you have time to line up your shots and everything, so a lot of better things can happen, when you have your own tank of oxygen and you're actually scuba diving. So hopefully that comes out, because I love being underwater. And then the other thing I want to say is, so my Windows computer, a lot of times when I plug in a drive, it's like, oh, we found errors on this hard drive. If you want, we can scan and fix it. Never scan and fix. Oh my goodness. So for one thing, it repaired this one drive, and it straight up deleted a whole directory. And so I lost like all these photographs from the series I was doing. I mean, luckily I had it backed up to the cloud, but it's just like, oh, that was so ridiculous. So that's that.